Human beings need freedoms because they need them. It's not an option. It's a matter of survival. Without freedom, you have an institution or some body of force that's in the way of man's survival. So, and one of those freedoms is freedom of thought. If people can't think freely, that hinders their ability to survive. So let's take a couple of minutes and let's talk about internet censorship. We're currently seeing that in Brazil, where many would argue, and probably rightfully so, that in Brazil it's illegal for what the establishment there is doing, but they are banning X and Rumble from that country. And the reason why is because the institutions do not have a valid argument against what people are saying. There are people who are, intellectually inclined, that understand the law in that country, and those tyrants that they are don't have an argument. They can't argue against what is being done in that country. They can't argue a case for their tyranny. So the people who are arguing against this tyranny are bringing up valid points, and they can't have, the establishment cannot have freedom of thought because they are moving to enslave their population. We see this all over the world as well. We see this in Western Europe, which has become increasingly draconian in internet censorship. In the UK and Germany, you can't criticize migrants or people who have, that are trans, for example. In the United States, they're trying to push for this as well. The FBI will visit people's houses. If you make a post that they don't like, it's not a crime, but they try to intimidate you nonetheless. Tyrants cannot allow you to think freely because tyranny is not a natural condition in the human condition. It's not, when they can't, they've admitted when they're being forceful, when somebody puts a gun to your head, essentially, and that's what the governments are doing, because they don't have an argument. They don't have a legitimate argument to say, our tyranny makes sense. They can't do it. You see this in countries, of course, in China, where it's brazen. And you see this in Russia as well. Russia very much does not have freedom of speech. So all these people are talking about how great Russia is and how Putin is the savior of the world. That goes to show you that he's not much different from a lot of these other world leaders. So, the key to this, the solution to this, is to continue to exercise the freedom of speech, to continue to exercise your freedom of thought. People require that freedom. They require the freedom to be able to focus or not focus, to succeed or fail. They require the ability to make mistakes, provided that they don't violate the rights of other people. They require the ability to use their minds at all, because that's where all wealth is generated. You look around the world, and countries that are authoritarian, well, they just don't do very well economically. And there's a very good reason for that. North Korea, they can't even afford to turn the lights on. And that's because when you have such a tyranny, the people can't produce freely. They can't use their minds creatively and invent new technology. You don't see really any new technology coming out of North Korea. And there's a reason for that. You look at a country like Russia that exports raw materials, but essentially has to import technology. And that's because they don't have the freedom of thought to produce that kind of technology. Whereas in the United States, historically, you've had that. And I say historically because that's ending here as well. But if it becomes a full tyranny, you won't see technological development anywhere. So anyway, that's my commentary on censorship.